Just 22 minutes before he left office yesterday, former President Joe Biden issued preemptive, unconditional pardons for his siblings and their spouses, blanket immunity for any nonviolent offenses they might have committed since 2014. It's just stunning. This move was not only criticized by Republicans, but also Democrats.
It's a shame that this has happened, but I'm not a fan of the pardons because now the precedent is set from now into the future. 4 years from now, I mean, it's a long time from now, obviously, but if the President Trump feels that he wants to pardon his family on the way out the door, right now, Democrats can't say anything about that.
Wow. So what precedent literally has been set through all of this? Well, joining me now to discuss this is Hans von Spakovsky. He's a senior legal fellow at the Heritage Foundation's Center for Legal and Judicial Studies. Previously, Hans worked at the Justice Department as counsel to the Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights. Hans, welcome back to Washington Watch. We really appreciate you coming on.
Sure, thanks for having me.
All right, so let's just begin with this. What can you tell us exactly? Who was pardoned with this last ditch effort 22 minutes before leaving office? Who was pardoned and what were they pardoned for?
Well, basically, it was the Biden family. Everyone and anyone who may have been and probably was involved in earning the $20 million from foreign sources that has been a subject of investigation, as you know, by the U.S. House for quite a while. And no crimes were specified. The pardon basically says any and all crimes that they might or could be charged with during that specific period of time. This is unprecedented. I don't think this has ever happened in our entire history. Pardons and commutations are given to people who've already been indicted and convicted. And so we've never had this before. Actually, you know who actually made one of the best comments about this? Was President-elect Joe Biden. And he was actually interviewed in December of 2020 because back then people were saying that outgoing President Donald Trump might do this. And he criticized this, saying, you know, the whole world looks at our legal system. This would create a terrible precedent and, in essence, would make people lose faith in the adherence of our country to the rule of law. And he said he would never do it. That tells you a lot about Joe Biden, doesn't it?
It certainly does. So, all right, I've just got to ask you, this has been so disturbing to me. Is the president actually allowed to do this? And what I know the president can pardon. But right. What you just brought up, here we have a pardon of people who have not been convicted, have not been charged, not been indicted. It's just kind of a blanket immunity if they ever did anything. Does this not set potentially a stage where any administration can come in and direct whatever criminal activity to take place to accomplish whatever administration may want to accomplish, and then just basically say, don't worry about it. We're just going to give everybody an immunity when it's all said and done. Is that kind of precedent a real potential threat?
Yeah, that is exactly what it does, and that's why this should not have been done. Unfortunately, there's really not much that can be done about it. If you look at the president's pardon power in the Constitution, it's Article 2, Section 2, it's virtually unlimited. And we've never had this happen before because, quite frankly, I don't think we've ever had a president as corrupt as Joe Biden and his family. And so it never occurred to anyone to do something like this, and there were never circumstances that led to this kind of thing happening. But it does set a terrible precedent. Future presidents could use this to immunize all kinds of illegal criminal behavior, and I don't think that's the kind of country we want to be living in.
No, absolutely not. So what needs to take place, what can take place to put a stop to this now, to ensure that this type of thing is not a possibility in the future? I mean, like you said, we can't live in a country where we potentially have corrupt administrations that they can then cover up the behavior with a pardon.
Well, there's a couple things to remember here. The only way you could change this is to, frankly, amend the Constitution. You'd have to amend the pardon power and put some limitations on it. But keep in mind, like I said, a couple things. One, this only extends to federal crimes, okay? A president cannot pardon anyone for state crime. So if a state crime has been committed, these members of his family could still be prosecuted. The other thing it does is it doesn't hamper transparency and public disclosure through continued investigations by Congress. If the House wants to continue its investigation of the Biden family, and frankly, their skullduggery with these wealth transactions, profiting off of the official positions of Joe Biden as the prior vice president, the one thing this does is take away the ability of any member of the Biden family, if they're subpoenaed to come testify, from asserting their Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination, because they've been pardoned. So they can't raise a Fifth Amendment defense. They have to answer questions. And that kind of investigation could hopefully lead, like I said, to more disclosure of the shenanigans that the Biden family engaged in.
Wow. Well, that's encouraging to hear that, number one, this only applies to federal crimes, not state crimes. So there's probably something there if the investigations want to go further, and that the investigations of Congress are not hampered by this. Great points. Thank you so much, Hans von Spakovsky, Senior Legal Fellow at the Heritage Foundation. Always great to see you, and we're deeply grateful for you unpacking what's happening here. Thank you, sir.
Sure. Thanks for having me.